So as we start off this new year, I thought it'd be great to get some instruction on how to go about making plans for our year. Scripture reading this morning that I want us to highlight and look at comes from Paul's letter to the church in Ephesus. The 5th chapter, verses 15 through 17, says, "Be very careful then how you live." Paul's giving us advice. "Not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is." You know, one of the things that happens every year is a lot of the major magazines love to put out a big pictorial issue recalling people and events that happened during the year. And now a lot of them are on TV, and you get to be able to think back about things that happened in the previous year. These same magazines also include articles of what they expect to happen moving into the future. Some go even as far to make predictions 10, 20, or more years into the future. Some of those predictions have proven accurate, some not so much. Back in 1967, experts predicted that by the turn of the century, technology would have taken over so much of the work that the average American, their work week would only be 22 hours long. And we would only work 27 weeks a year. As a result, the biggest problem we would have would be deciding what to do with all of our free time. Anyone find that prediction to come true? No. Not yet? I don't know about you, but that missed the mark as far as my life was concerned. In fact, it seems like today we're even more busy than they were in 1967. We walk fast, talk fast, eat fast, and after we eat, we say, "Please excuse me, I've got to run." Does that come out of anybody's mouth? Having a lunch? Yes. So here we are, second Sunday of 2023. Where'd he go? Thank you, Chris. I saw your wife first. I went, there's nobody sitting beside her there. I want to thank Chris again for bringing the message to us on the first. Appreciate you being here for our church family. I wonder how we'll do this year. Will this year be as busy as last year was? How will we make use of our time? In 357 days, when this year's over, and you're looking back on the year, will you look back with regret or with joy? Part of that depends on if TCU wins tomorrow night. Do we look to the future with anticipation or with dread? Sometimes we wrestle with that, don't we? Are we excited about what this year will bring, or are we concerned? This passage of Scripture, I believe, can help us look forward to 2023 if we listen to it. I'm going to hear again this passage from Ephesians. I wonder if she repeated it. Yep. "Be careful then how you live, not as unwise people." So Paul's urging us to be careful how we live, but as wise, making the most of our time. Why? Because the days are evil. So do not be foolish in how we spend our time, but understand what the Lord's will is. I think there's some important lessons that we can glean from the Apostle Paul in heading into this new year. First of all, we have to be very careful how we live because he tells us our time on this earth is limited. And it's interesting, I don't think it feels that way to the children, to those in our 20s, those in their 20s, like I am, those in their 20s or 30s. But as we age, we understand this more and more, don't we? The psalmist wrote, "Show me, O Lord, my life's end and number of my days. Let me know how fleeting is my life." And again, the length of our days is 70 years or 80 years if we have the strength. They quickly pass and we fly away. It's interesting. For some of us, 70 or 80 sounds like a long time away. For others, 70 or 80 is still just a young person, right? But we can agree that time quickly passes by. I think we understand that more as we get older, how fast and fleeting time is. In fact, I can remember when I was young that anyone over 40 was ancient. What did they say? Don't ever trust anyone over 40? 30? When we were kids? Very fleeting. The passage of time is so relative, isn't it? I mean, when a teenager takes out the car for the night, it seems like a short time, but when we're parents sitting at home, it's an eternity. Time is an interesting thing. Psalmist also tells us that we need to number our days so that we can develop a heart for wisdom. You know, a few years ago, People magazine published an article entitled Dead Ahead. I don't know if anybody remembers that. It was telling about a new clock that keeps track of how much time you have left to live. Now, it calculates the average lifespan, and this is amusing in front of who I'm talking to. It calculates the average lifespan of 75 years for men and 80 years for women. So what you do, you program your gender and age into the clock, and from then on it tells you how much time you have left. And it's sold for $99. And believe it or not, there's an app that does that same thing today. You can get an app on your phone where you program that in, and it'll tell you how much time you have left, a countdown. I don't want one, but it's an intriguing idea, isn't it? The psalmist said that we're to number our days. You know, with that kind of clock, I figured out that if I live to be 75 years old, that I have 7,665 days left to live. That's it. 7,665 days. Part that sounds like a big number, and then it sounds like a really small number. But the truth is, we know this, neither you nor I have any guarantee on how many days we have to live. In fact, the Bible says not to count on tomorrow because tomorrow may not come for you or me. All we have is right now. That's why we've got to live our life to the fullest. So our time on earth is very valuable. It's very limited. And because of that, Paul tells us that we have to make the most of every opportunity. And he gives us a reason why we have to do that. We have to make the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. We get that. Jesus said, in fact, in Scripture, that Satan is a robber and a thief. One of the biggest things he tries to rob from us is our time because he knows how precious a possession it is. Just think of how much time we waste sinning. Time we spend gossiping, spreading rumors, time we spend in broken relationships, time we spend with unforgiving hearts. The truth is, anything that doesn't glorify God or follow the Bible is sin. And I wonder how much time we've wasted in sin. Or we think about it, or we worry about the consequences of sin. Satan is a thief and a robber. But it's not just sin that makes demands on our lives and our time. Sometimes even good things can make demands. Jesus went to the home of Mary and Martha and Lazarus. Remember this? He sat down to teach, and Mary was sitting at his feet just soaking in every word, while Martha was in the kitchen preparing dinner. Found in Luke 10, Martha gets upset because Mary's not in the kitchen too, so she complains to Jesus, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." "Martha, Martha," Jesus answered, "you're worried and upset about many things, but only one thing is needed. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." Now, was Martha committing sin by fixing a meal in the kitchen? No, of course not. But there's a problem. She was preoccupied with what she was doing that she didn't realize God was in her living room. Think about that again. She was so preoccupied with what she was doing that she didn't realize God was in her living room. I wonder how often we fall into that. We get so preoccupied with the important things that we have to do each and every day that we miss those opportunities to see God right there with us. That we go so wrapped up in, and it can be good things. The point is, we get so wrapped up in what our priorities are, in what we think is important, that we don't see God right beside us. And that's the same mistake you and I make almost every day. And we need to be cautious about that. That's why Paul's telling us to be careful of the days, that they can be evil, because they can draw us away from that relationship with God. Richard Swenson, a medical doctor, wrote a book in which he discusses one of the major maladies of our time is anxiety and stress. Anybody relate to that? Anxiety and stress. He calls it overload and says that people today are just plain overloaded. We're overloaded with commitments. We commit ourselves to go here and there and take part of this activity and that social function. We always have to be somewhere. As a result, we soon begin meeting ourselves coming and going because we're so overloading ourselves with areas of commitment. It says we're overloaded with possessions. Our closets are full, our garages are overflowing. We've gone into debt to pay for the things that we have to have. Now we're afraid someone will steal them. We get overloaded in our possessions. Thirdly, it says we get overloaded in our area of work. We get up early, fight traffic, experience intolerable working conditions, because we have to if we're going to pay for all the possessions that we have to have. Also, information overload. He said as a doctor he has to read 220 articles a month just to keep up with the changes in his possession. And I think about us now with the internet, how much information we are bombarded with each and every day. We sit on our phones. We know it's bad, but we don't escape it, do we? I sat for a moment, we were at Jen's mom's house, and Jen's brother and whole family was over there. My whole family were all sitting in the family room, and there was one of those moments where I looked out and noticed that everyone in the room was sitting on their phone and looking at their phone. And we know that's not right, but how often do we fall into that trap? Too much information. You get the picture. There are so many demands on our time, so many things that need to be done. But there's just 8,760 hours left in this year. We've already used 168 of them. How are we going to make the most out of every opportunity we have? Paul gives us an answer to that. We do not to be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. Now, do you think God's will, what do you think God's will is for you in this next year? What does God want from you in this next year? Have you ever stopped and thought about that? I mean, we think a lot about what do I want to accomplish in this coming year. What are my priorities? We even have a thing where we set up goals, right? And goals for the new year. Have you stopped and asked, what does God want from you in this coming year? What is God's will for you in 2023? Do you think He wants your calendar so crowded that you don't have time for important things? What is God's will for you this year? Let me make a couple of assumptions. Since you're in church this morning, I think you believe God is an important part of your life. But when you begin to establish your priorities for this year, you have to decide where God stands in your life. What's most important in your life? I mean, the hope would be that your relationship with God through Jesus Christ is what's most important in your life. And it's funny, so if we make a decision that that's what's most important in our life, then that's got to be at the top of our priority list for the year, doesn't it? I mean, you can't have that as a top priority and then not follow through on that. How would that priority affect your decisions, your scheduling, your relationship with others? If that's an important priority, then when Sunday rolls around, is it neither rain nor shine nor football kickoffs will interfere with me coming to church? Because that's first in my life. That's a priority. I'll worship the Lord and nothing else will be priority over that. If that's a priority in your life, then will you schedule time to pray and read Scripture in 2023? You pray for yourself, for your family, for the people around you? Will you pray for your church? For creating a priority list, where does your family play on that priority? Every husband ought to have a date night with his wife. How much time do you spend with your children? Whether they're young or grown, it doesn't matter. Whether they're near or have to be on the phone. Is family a priority? Our priorities are important because our days are numbered, aren't they? For those that have work, and Christians ought to be good workers. When someone hires a Christian, they should be getting someone that gives an honest day's work. Because we're Christians, we have a responsibility to the Lord to honor Him even in the workplace. What do we need to do? We need to establish our priorities. Learn how to live in them. You know, the two greatest enemies of time are regrets for the things of the past and anxiety about what will happen to us in the future. Which finds most of us either living in the past or living in an anxious future. In fact, we get engaged in this little game called I Wish It Were. I wish it was here next week. I wish it was next month. Kids go to school and say, I wish this day was over. Gary Freeman tells about a girl who went to college and just hated it. Anybody can relate to this. But she told herself, if I can just get out of college and get married and have children, I know I'll finally be able to enjoy life. Right? So she stuck with it. She went to classes every day and finally graduated from college. She got married and had children and discovered that children are a lot of work. So she told herself, if I can just get these kids raised, then I'll be able to relax and enjoy life. But about the time the kids were entering high school, her husband said, guess what? We don't have enough money to send our kids to college. I guess you'll have to get a job. Well, she didn't want to, but she knew he was right and they needed the money, so she went to work. She hated it, but she told herself, if I can just get these kids out of college and get all the bills paid, then I can quit work and really enjoy life. Finally, the last child graduated from college and all the bills were paid, so she walked into her employer's office and said, I quit. And he said, oh, you don't want to quit now. If you stay just another 8 years, you'll have a pension for the rest of your life. Right? Everybody stuck there still? She thought, well, I don't want to work for another 8 years, but there's all that money there. I really can't turn down that opportunity. So she worked for another 8 years. Finally, she and her husband retired at the same time. They sold their home and bought a little retirement place. Then they sat down on the swing of their front porch looked at the family picture album and dreamed about the good old days. Right? We get that. Someone said, life is what happens to you while you're making plans to do something else. We get caught up in that, don't we? Another year has come and gone. A new year lays out before us. We need to pray, help us, Lord, to redeem this time. Lord, please help us to use the 8,640 hours of this year for the wisest way that we can for you and for your glory. Paul says in Romans 13, the hour has come for you to wake up from your slumber because your salvation is nearer now than when we first believed. The night is nearly over, the day is almost here. So let us put aside the deeds of darkness and put on the armor of light. Let's pray. Lord God, we look to this year ahead of us. We already might be making plans for all the things that we have to do, all the priorities, all of our wishes and wants. Where do you fit in it? Have we made a desire to serve you more fully this new year? Have we pledged to reach out and tell people about you in this new year? Will we spend time reading your word this year? Will we spend time talking to you this year? What are our priorities as we move into 2023? Let them be to help us deepen our relationship with you, to continue to grow into the people that you've called us to be a light shining in the darkness. Lord, equip us, comfort us, and guide us to do your will, that which is pleasing in your sight, as we move throughout this new year. In Christ's name.